Well, hello there, traveller. Coming in from the cold. We've got a nice warm fire going.
Welcome to Hearth and Tome Tavern. Can I pour you a cup of something?
We've also got some wonderful books here if you're interested. After all, there's nothing better than curling up by the fire with a hot drink and a good book.
It's true. We have been reading some great books lately. So why don't we have a seat and let us tell you all about them? Hello and welcome to the Hearth and Tome podcast, a monthly book club hosted by me, Eve Handyside. I go by any pronouns.
And I'm Phoenix Arden, and I use they, them pronouns. We are back. It's June.
Woo.
And for this episode, we're going to be talking about Crier's War by Nina Varela, which we both have thoughts for.
We have the same opinion,
I think so.
About how much we something to this book. But anyway,
we have feelings, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Once again, we'll say a general spoiler warning for everything that we're going to talk about in this episode. So if you haven't read the book, go away, read it, and come back.
Or don't.
Or don't.
You don't have to.
It is up to you. You might find out how we feel.
Yeah, but before we get into talking about the book, we have a little thing, a little like announcement-y thing. Well, it's less of an announcement because it sort of happened already.
Already here. So yeah, starting this month, you may have already noticed that you can hear more from us in the tavern. Woo! As we are talking about books. You can hear more from us as we just generally chat what books we're reading, more kinds of literature, and like more stuff that we're into every month.
It's going to be a lot less structured, a lot more like chaotic. There's probably going to be tangents upon tangents upon tangents. We're just talking, books we've read, books we're looking forward to, all that sort of stuff. And those episodes, instead of being called Book Club, will be called Talking in the Tavern.
Ooh, hey.
I did finger guns that nobody can see.
But we can feel them. I'm doing it back.
Yeah. And those episodes are going to show up on just the same feed as these ones on the second Tuesday of the month, every month. For now, they might end up being more frequent depending on how we feel.
How often we want to talk.
Yeah, pretty much. They're going to be a lot more like free form than the book club. So yeah.
Yes, 100%.
We hope you have already enjoyed the first episode that we've not recorded yet, but will come out before this.
Yeah, which will hopefully come out before this.
It will.
It's in the works. We're getting to it. But yes, it's because we're early recording this one.
Again.
You guys don't need to know how early we are recording this one. But anyway, let's just jump right into what we think about Crier's War.
Oh god.
I hated it.
I also did not like this book.
I want to start off by just going on sharing a little insight into what the bookish world thinks about this.
Yes.
Namely, Goodreads.
Oh.
What Goodreads thinks this book is.
See, I'm not on Goodreads.
Rating? I just found it really funny because on Goodreads it is labelled a 4.15 out of 5.
Really? Wow. I wonder what it shows up as on Storygraph. Let me have a quick look.
I do not understand. This book is terrible.
It's a 4.14 on average on Storygraph.
What?
I see, just in the past week or so since I finished this book, I have seen it everywhere on TikTok all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Along with that other book that's like dragons or some shit that everybody's talking about.
Oh.
I keep seeing people being like, oh, here's a list of my favourite Sapphic books, and this is in there. And I'm like, did we read the same book?
To be honest, this barely feels like a Sapphic book.
It's
it doesn't have that same kind of...
It is, but it isn't.
Chemistry beneath them. Yeah.
I feel like
there's no chemistry.
No, there's no chemistry, but there were some really good moments early on where you get this Sapphic longing happening. That was the one
I like the pining.
Good thing.
The pining's pretty good. The pining's interesting. But there's better Sapphic books. So I was like, I just couldn't care some of the time.
Yes.
But
Let's get into it and start with our averages.
Yes.
For the total of... Oh, we should probably compile, by the way. We've talked about this in the previous episodes, but just in case. Compile, it was invented by Book Roast on YouTube. It's a way of rating books. It breaks books down into 7 categories, and then you give each of those categories a rating out of 10. Add them all up, divide by 7, and that gives you your average. The categories are characters, atmosphere and world building, writing style, plot, intrigue, logic, and enjoyment. So we're going to work our way through all of those, but we're going to start off, as ever, with our overall averages. So Eve, what did it get from you?
As a whole, it got a 3.5.
Okay. On average for me, it got a 3.3. So
okay,
we're really close.
We've never been this close before.
No, we've really not.
Oh my god. We both hated it.
Yeah, of course it would be the book that we were both just like, wow, this was bad.
This was terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Let's do a quick plot summary, I guess.
Yes.
So it's YA fantasy. I've seen... Okay, this is already a tangent. I have seen some people who didn't like this book be like, I didn't like it very much, but it's YA fantasy, so that's okay. And I'm like, no, because I've read good YA fantasy. Don't
there's like good ones in the wild out there.
Don't do YA fantasy dirty by blaming the genre for this. Please.
Oh my god, yeah.
Okay, so
it just feels so...
Yeah, we'll get into it a lot, repeatedly.
So there is 2 points of view.
Yeah.
2 points of view. One human, one maid, which is a kind of like automa being named... The human girl is named... Ayla. And the other one is... And the maid is called Crier, Lady Crier. She's kind of like a higher up lady in society.
Yeah, and the autome are like... I don't know if it's autome or automa or what, but they're like really advanced magical automatons, basically. And they kind of took over this kingdom after the War of Kinds, which saw them take out pretty much the royals and the rest of most of the human race at that point, and then they have kept some as being kind of like lower class workers, and while they have risen to be like the nobility.
Yeah.
So like autome were... The first one was created because the queen at the time was barren, couldn't have kids, and she really wanted a child, so she ordered all the alchemists in the land to like make her a baby, basically. And one guy succeeded in making the first autome, and then eventually like they started making more and more, and they were very much like servants and playthings to like human nobility, and then they like did an uprising, took over, and now the whole thing is like everything's flipped, and now the humans are the servants and the autome are nobility.
Yes.
And so our main characters, like you said, we've got Ayla and we have Crier. Ayla is a human servant in the house of Crier's father, who is like the king of the autome. And basically Ayla's family were killed when she was young, killed by autome, and so she decides to get vengeance by killing the sovereign's daughter, Crier.
Yep.
And then Crier, there's like a whole thing where they end up meeting, and Crier decides to make Ayla her like handmaiden, and Ayla's like, hey, this is the perfect opportunity to gain her trust before I stab her. And then they like supposedly are in love at some point or something.
Yeah.
And then at that, I feel like what little plot there is in this book all happens right at the start, and then for most of the rest of the book they're just sort of like around.
Yeah. They're just... Okay, I will just say one thing. They seem to be walking somewhere, and I don't know where they're walking to. They're always walking.
They do always seem to be, like, on the move.
Where are they going?
Oh, yeah, and Crier is betrothed to this guy called Scry Kinnock, who...
Is that how you say it?
I don't know if it's Kinnock or Kynock. I've been saying Kinnock.
I've been saying Kinnock, but I was kept calling him Scurry and Scare and Sry.
I don't know. Anyway.
Pronunciation guides.
Yeah, please. He is the leader of this group of Otome who believe that Otome should not rely on humans so much and that all humans should be made extinct and all this jazz. So her betrothal to him has been like organized by her father as a way to like placate that group of Otome, because her father is the leader of the sort of more general view of Otome, which is this like traditionalism, I think it's called, where basically they just act like human nobility used to act. Like, they consider that like the way to be. And Kinnock is the leader of a group of people who are like, hey, no, we don't need to rely on the humans.
The old ways.
Yeah.
And the built up kind of like established systems. Because they took over. Why not abolish the systems?
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah, so that's our plot, such as it is.
Which sounded interesting.
It did, right? Like, off the bat, I was like, hey, this sounds like it could be good.
It sounds fun.
Alas, as we will get to, it was not.
It was shit. Pardon my French.
One of these days, I just want to, like, this episode is going to be just both of us being like, this book sucked. One of these days, we're going to have a point where we are, like, polar opposites on a book. And I cannot wait. Like, we were kind of on Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, but, like, it wasn't too bad. Whereas I feel like one of these days, one of us is going to hate a book, and the other is going to be like, no, I loved it.
Yeah, I think we're getting close to the only one, maybe.
It'll be interesting to
Feel
see.
it in the winds. Yeah.
Anyway, let's launch right in with the start of the cop-ile, characters.
Character. I gave it a 3.
I gave it a 2.
Woohoo!
This, right off the bat, is a great start for this book, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's like a good handful of named characters. Like, we get 2 points of view, but there's a handful of characters who have some amount of like presence in the book. One of whom was vaguely interesting, which to me was this queen of a neighbouring kingdom. She's also an Otome.
Yes.
Her name is Jun or June. I'm not quite sure how it's supposed to be pronounced.
I think it was Jun.
It's Jun. So to me that says Jun.
Yeah.
She was the only vaguely interesting character, and I think really she's only vaguely interesting because she's in the book for like 10 pages.
Exactly. She's hardly there. She leaves. I respect her. There was like barely anything interesting from like most of the characters, namely like the main pair. But like I liked Jun. I liked the side characters. Was it her? Am I wrong in assuming her brother shows up at one point?
No, you are not. So this is like a whole plot point. Obviously, we've already said spoilers, but spoilers. Ayla thinks her whole family died when she was a kid, and it is revealed that her brother, whose name I think is Storm, right? It's spelled like Storm, but with an E on the end. I know that the author meant this as Storm. In my head, though, I could not stop pronouncing it like Beyonce.
Yeah.
In my head, it was Stormé. Every time.
You had that sass, you know?
But anyway, like, she thinks he's dead. Turns out that he didn't die somehow and ended up in this neighbouring kingdom and is now, like, an advisor to Queen Jun.
And they're hitting it off real well.
They sure are, the two of them.
They sure are. There totally isn't almost sex scene.
Yeah. Thankfully, there's a door between us and the sex scene at the time. But yeah, basically, Crier hears them having sex and is like, "Oh my god, people can have sex."
I hated that.
She's like, she finds it hot, I think, is the implication. She's like, "Oh wow, I could be doing this with Ayla," and I'm like.
I cringed so hard, and that just it might be the aeroation in me, or it might not be, because I hated everything to do with Crier's coming into her sexuality, because it was just like, oh my god, I'm gonna have sex. No, Crier, please don't. Please. Don't put me through it.
It started out as like, oh, this is kind of interesting because she's an autome. She doesn't have like human emotions in the same way, so it's interesting watching her experience like developing feelings for a person. But it quite quickly just became like, I don't want to know, you know?
I felt gross every time.
Yeah.
But like, I did like one thing about the characters, and that was purely the fact that this might be for the writing style later on, but like Crier having an extra pillar that turned out to be pointless.
Yeah. This was like Crier's whole arc in this book, okay? Yeah. Is that her betrothed, Kinnock, tells her, he's like trying to get her on side to his weird movement. And so he tells her really early on in the book that like the one of the midwives who helped make her, because obviously all autome are like built, one of the midwives who helped build her was like arrested because she was connected to another autome who was flawed in some way. And Scry Kinnock, or Skyer Kinnock, or however the fuck you say it, Kinnock, he says that he's got Crier's blueprints from when she was made, and that she's also flawed because she has a secret fifth pillar. So all autome have 4 pillars, which I can't remember what they are.
Neither did I.
But there's 2 that are like human things, and 2 that are like
autome things.
Yeah. And he claims that she's got a secret 5th one called Passion.
Yes.
And then, right near the end of the book, she goes to the place where the midwives are and is like, hey, I'm flawed, can you fix me? And the midwife's like, but Crier, you don't have a 5th pillar. Da da da.
So it felt like none of it was worth it.
It's because none of it was worth it.
None of it was worth it. It was terrible. Because it's like, it was also really, really strange that he gave it to her, like in chapter 2.
Yeah, it's because he's like trying to like get her on side or some shit.
But like,
yeah.
But like, if he wanted her on our side, sure, it's one way to like gaslight her. But also like, it's kind of funky because of course she'll find out.
Yeah, I think the implication is supposed to be that he's like underestimating her or doesn't expect her to like investigate. And just assumes that she'll go along with it or some shit.
Yeah.
I checked. Yeah, so the 4 pillars. So there's the 2 human pillars, which are intellect and organics, and the 2 automa pillars, which are calculation and reason. And supposedly, Crier has this 5th pillar, which is a 3rd human pillar called Passion. And she thinks that this is why she's like developing feelings for Ayla throughout the book. And then, of course, right at the end, it's like, but you never had a 5th pillar. Oh my god.
But you have no fucking emotions or personality to begin with. There's nothing cool about you.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about the character stuff? Because that kind of ties me into a point I want to make on the next bit.
I will quickly say Ayla also had a love interest, who I don't know the name of, didn't matter. He wanted to join a rebellion, and there was no point in him at all, apart from him.
His name was Benji.
He was Benji.
Broke my heart. Okay. I have a D&D character whose name is Benji, who I love with every fibre of my being.
Benji.
Seeing this character be called Benji made me so sad, because I hate Benji in this book.
I just stopped calling him Benji. I just kept calling him Bang Guy in my mind, so I would kind of differentiate between your D&D character and him. Because I was just like, they cannot do this to my tall man Benji.
Yeah, so he is another human who's like part of, or wants to be part of the like human resistance, rebellion, uprising, whatever, and who has like a crush on Ayla. And
I don't see how she has no personality.
It's like there's moments where she like finds out that people think they're together, and she's like, "Oh no, this is sad. He's just my friend," also, and I'm just like, "I don't fucking care."
There's also this really weird scene where in the cavern underneath like the whole place, and they're dancing together, and he's holding her hips and stuff, and she's like grinding against him, and I'm just like, you're wondering why people think you're in a relationship.
But then later in the book, it like the other human servants start to like get a bit suspicious of Ayla because they keep seeing her being so close with Crier.
Yeah.
And he himself makes allusions to, like, is there something more going on between the two of them? Between Crier and Ayla. And then, after having made those allusions, goes ahead and just kisses her.
Yeah, that was gross.
Which was gross, and also, like, he didn't ask or anything. He just does it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you
just, like,
know, or you think
ask
that she's, like,
lady.
with somebody else. The fuck are you doing? Did not like him.
He was a dick. Most characters, I just hated.
Most characters I felt pretty neutral about, because they just were nothing. Him I actively disliked.
Nothing. It was like, it felt like a first draft. Well, not a first draft, like, at least, like, a second draft, but they didn't put a lot of, like, emphasis onto characters.
Yeah.
More work could have been done for that.
Yeah.
But, yeah. We'll go swiftly along into atmosphere.
Yes.
You had something for
I
this.
do. So firstly, I gave it a 3 for atmosphere.
I gave it a 4.
Okay, so far I've been a point behind you on both scores.
How this has happened? How
I know.
I'm the higher one? I don't know.
Yeah, so we were talking about them all having no personality.
Yes.
So the whole world building thing, the whole vibe of the book is supposed to be that the Otome are like robot-y, automaton-y things and don't have like normal human emotions and behaviours. I don't know about you, but I felt like you could totally take out the fact that they're Otome and just say they're human nobility and the book would feel exactly the same.
Oh yeah, it'd be 100% the same. There's literally...
That to me
There's nothing there.
Is such a horrendous failure of world building. To be like,
yes.
Oh, Otome and humans are so different, but they're not. In literally any way. The Otome just act like rich, noble humans. Even the guy who's like, no, we don't need to act like humans, acts like a human all the fucking time. There is nothing to distinguish them at all.
At all. And it's like, if you're making robotic characters as your main, like, leads as well, give them something cool. Make them distinct from the humans. Because otherwise, they're the same fucking person.
It felt like the author kept telling us, here's a way that the Otome are different. But at no point did they feel different at all.
Yeah. No.
And that, to me, was such a letdown.
I felt like they were kind of spoon-feeding us that they're Otome, and I'm just over and over again to try and make us believe it, but I'm just like, they're just bland.
Yeah. And I think part of it as well is that all of the human characters are also just bland. So it's just like, I don't care.
They were kind of equal in that sense.
Yeah.
It was really annoying.
Because it has potential. The world building, the like setup of this world where the Otome were servants and then did an uprising has potential. And then immediately that just all gets abandoned and you might as well just be writing a story about a human noble falling in love with a human servant.
Yeah, and it could easily just have been 100 pages.
Yeah, please.
Not 400.
This was shorter than Can't Spell Treason Without Tea.
Was it actually? Oh my god. Okay.
It felt longer. But it felt longer.
I was there for so long. I'll also say this one thing. Cracking map, right?
Oh.
It had a map.
Yeah, it does have a map.
It does have a map. I love a map. Great map. I did not know where anything happened. I looked at the map once, gave up. I did not know where anyone was from, where people were going, and they kept walking, and I don't know where they went.
Yeah.
I'm so there was always a hallway that people were walking down. There was always a hallway. There was also always some secret room, some secret house in the middle of nowhere. No idea where it is.
Yeah.
I don't know where the other country was.
No.
No.
Yeah. It has a map, and it also has a timeline at the start of the book, which I also appreciated.
I appreciated the timeline.
That made it seem interesting, and then promptly I was disabused of that notion by the rest of the book being not good.
I thought they were going to mention more stuff in the timeline, and I was just like, this is boring.
Yeah.
But just focus more on the history, please. I think might have been better if they focused on, like, when the uprising was happening.
Yeah.
Possibly. Because that would have been fun.
Yeah.
But then, I'll make
just,
a point later, but...
It was just good potential for the world. Like, the concept for this world is interesting. I feel like there was potential to have, like, discussion about, like, if they weren't going to have the Automa take control and then change things, right? Fair enough, like, but they could have then had discussion about, like, the cyclical nature of violence and how, you know, how well-intentioned, like, revolutions end up just repeating the same mistakes of the people that they revolted against. That would have been interesting. But what they didn't do was any of that. Instead, what we got was, yep, everything's basically the same, but it's flipped. Hey!
There was also a cycle of abuse that still went on because women still didn't have, like, full rights compared to men.
Yeah.
But they're robots!
Yeah! That was the thing that was really weird to me as well.
Yeah.
This is fantasy, right? And the Autome, I know they were initially made by humans, but they don't have to, like, adhere to human gender norms.
Exactly.
That felt weird because that means that was a choice that the Autome made at some point, and that's just strange to me.
It felt icky.
It did.
Because, like, humans are making them into this, they're making them, like, these have a gender binary, and it's like, but they're machines, they don't want to have a gender binary.
Yeah.
They will not have that representation inside the binary, like, come on.
And it's been, like, long enough since the revolution, since the War of Kinds, that the Autome have produced other Autome, right, without any human inclusion. I think the midwives are all human, but they don't actually do very much. I think they just, like, are involved with the designing building process. Yeah. So it feels weird to me that the Autome would choose to uphold that particular aspect. That is very strange.
Weird.
Yeah.
I think because we're probably talking about it, we should move on to writing style.
Yes.
I think that's next. Yes.
Writing style, ironically, my second highest score. With a 5.
It's my highest. Mine's a 5 too.
Hey!
Oh my gosh. Good team.
Yeah. So the past 2 books that we've reviewed both got higher on the writing style because both of them had, like, good writing styles for the most part with some failings. Yes. This got lower because the writing style just on the whole was thoroughly meh.
Yeah.
I don't think it was bad. So I don't think it was good. I don't think there were any major failings. It was just meh.
Yeah. It was fine.
Yeah.
I just felt okay. The first 150 pages. Stuff happens. Things go down. The rest of the book, nothing happens.
Oh my god. So little happens in this book.
So little happens. It's just info dumping from after 150 pages onwards. It's just info dumping. And I just got so annoyed.
The one thing I liked about the writing style was that every so often, I can't remember if it was at the start of every chapter or whatever, but there would be little snippets of lore that were, like, from books or from people's letters to each other that were all, like, setting up a backstory for the Autome and stuff. That was interesting. If only it had been in any way built on.
They did have flashbacks that were, like, 2 chapters or something, and they were highlights of the 350 pages after the first, because, like, everything else, actually, I'll take that back. They were also boring.
They weren't great, but they were marginally more interesting than the rest of the book.
Yeah, because I really liked the gore of, like, one of the first daughter that was made eating the pet bird that the queen had. I loved that. I ate that really up like she did.
For sure.
I thought that was fun. I wanted more. Okay, hear me out. If it was more of, like, an adult, I would have loved to see this go into the kind of gory aspects of, like, Autome trying to be human-like.
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
Yeah.
That would have been really fun. But, like, no.
That would have been cool. But alas.
Except one bird died, and that was it.
Yeah.
Because, like, Alia's brother, when they're killed in quotation marks, when they come back, they see a body that's charred. That's fun.
So like she sees the bodies, actual bodies of her mother and father, and then goes outside of their. She's been like hiding in the fucking outhouse, like under the toilet seat, and then she comes out, and outside of the house she sees this like charred, burnt body, and the head is turned towards the outhouse. So she assumes that this is Stormé. Now,
Stormé.
Personally, because I was starting to get that like, oh god, this book is not good vibe at that point, I immediately was like, her brother's gonna come back, isn't he?
Yeah, you could tell.
It was, yeah,
because he was talking about too much.
It's that horrendous rule of storytelling where if you don't see the body, the person ain't dead. Which is a trope
but even
that
if
I
you
hate.
see the body, the person might not be dead.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
It's just, ugh.
Yeah,
it was a boring plot twist.
It was. I
wish he stayed dead.
But again, that like flashback that she has to like the brutal massacre of her home and family, more interesting than most of the book.
Yep. And that happens 4 times, like that one specific flashback.
Yeah. There is one moment that I kind of appreciated where I can't remember the context, but she's somewhere that stinks. And it, like, triggers her because she was, like, hiding inside a toilet for hours.
I love that.
I appreciate that level of detail that Ayla canonically cannot stand the smell of, like, a toilet anymore because she had to hide in one while her family was killed.
Yeah, that's fun. But dear God, just bad plot twist. Don't include it.
Which I guess we've sort of slid sideways into the plot now, haven't we?
Yeah, we'll just go on to plot.
Yeah.
Because they go kind of hand in hand.
They do. I gave plot a 2.
I gave plot a 4. It should have been lower, I think now. Because I don't remember what the fuck happened in this book.
Not much.
No. Not much at all. But yeah. It's fine. All I'm going to say is this one thing. Detroit become human. That's what the whole thing felt like. It just felt like a bad spin-off of Detroit Become Human.
Yeah.
The one video game. And that video game is fine.
I've never played it. But yeah,
it's
that's sort
fine.
of the vibe that I got, was that it was like, meh.
Yeah.
That is one of the negatives I've written in my notes under plot, is just unoriginal. Because the concept was kind of original. The entire execution was not.
It's not. The blurb in itself tries to make it sound like something it's not. They try and make it sound interesting. But as mean as that is. But like,
it's true.
It's true. Because I was expecting more sapphic pining, more political intrigue and politics. I love fantasy and dystopian politics. I felt nothing.
We almost had
nothing.
that. Like, there was such potential for the politics, because there's this whole thing with Kinnock having his, like, movement, and but it just doesn't. Instead of politics, we get another 100 pages of Crier being like, oh, I have passion. Oh no, woe is me.
No. I want to have sex. No, you don't, Crier. Please don't. Please don't do this to us.
Yeah, that's the other negative I've written next to plot, and this was in all caps, so you know it was bad. It just says, nothing happens for so long. Because nothing happens in this book.
Because
this book could have been at least half the length.
Oh yeah.
Because there's so much just like empty nothingness in this book, where it's just like Crier and Ayla in a room or walking along a corridor, and they're both separately thinking about how hot the other one is, but they can't admit it because that would be weird.
It does this one thing. It has the trope, which is kind of like a creepy insta-love as well between them, which I really didn't like, because it's meant to be enemies to... It's described as like an enemies to lovers thing.
I have seen people be like, this is the best sapphic enemies to lovers book I've ever read, and I'm like, huh?
Like, no! Where is the enemies? Where is the lovers? Where is the flavour? There's nothing there. Because I don't know, because at the beginning of the book, Crier falls off a cliff.
Yeah.
Trying to, like, listen in to her father and
Such a
Canuck or something.
horrendous, inciting incident to their, like, romance. Yes.
She
She's
tumbles.
out in the garden because she couldn't sleep, so she's taking a little promenade through the garden in the middle of the night, and she hears her father and Canuck, like, plotting, basically. And she's trying to listen in, and then she, like, steps on, I don't know, a weak bit of cliff and falls, and she's hanging on. She's like, oh no, I'm gonna die. And I was like, what a shame that would be.
Oh no.
And then Ayla, who's also in the garden for
some reason
that I can't remember, so it can't have been interesting,
yeah,
sees her and has this moment where she's like, I could just let her fall and then she'd be dead and my mission is complete. But actually, I want to kill her myself. Please. So then she pulls her up and I'm like, oh god.
But like, you could have just like grabbed her wrist, pulled her away from the cliff and let go. Then you're killing her yourself.
Exactly. It was
help her
such
up
a
and push her.
horrendously bad reason for any of this.
And here's the thing. The Otome are built to be this kind of like flawless, perfect people, right?
Uh-huh.
So why is she built like a twig? She cannot pull herself up.
You are not wrong. That felt weird to me because they are repeatedly described as being like strong and fast and like perfect, the perfect version of a human.
Exactly.
And then she's oh, I'm falling, I can't pull myself up. And I'm like, really, Crier? What?
I'm going to need a strong woman to come and save me.
That was the other thing. Okay? This book came out the same year as Gideon the Ninth.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And so, there were moments in this book where I was like, if this book had come out like 2 years later, I would flat out just be like, somebody is writing really shit Griddleheart fanfiction.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it came out the same year, so it's not really shit Griddleheart fanfiction. It's just really shit fiction.
It is really shit.
Sorry, Nina Varela, but try writing a good book next time.
Read Gideon the Ninth. Take notes, please, because that book is perfection in enemies to lovers, and they don't even end up really together in that book, which is so sad.
Not yet.
Not yet. We're holding out. First book. Come
on. Anyway.
Please, we want a saucy kiss between them.
Please.
But yeah.
Yeah, the plot was the plot was not good. That inciting incident to them like being together, not good. And that's the other thing. Yeah. So like Crier nearly dies. Mm-hmm. And then true to her name, cries.
Yeah.
And Ayla sees her cry, and Crier's like, oh no, she's seen me cry. Now I'm going to have to keep her close. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to make her my handmaiden.
I hated that.
Horrendous.
Just kill her.
Just kill her.
You have the power to just kill her. No one needs to know.
Yeah.
And plus, Crier's like crying like water, and I'm like, shouldn't you like this is like a boring kind of thing.
Yeah, like the whole thing was supposed to be that she's like an Otome, and Otome don't cry or some shit, but just yeah.
I did like one thing. I don't know why. I'm just gonna quickly jump this in here, but it's like the Otome actually do eat, and they can eat food, which I really, really like.
Yeah.
And like the rest of like the human population is starving, and they can eat the food that they grow, which I liked. I wanted to see more of them eating in front of people and watching them suffer. Yeah. But no.
Because the Otome, they can eat normal human food, but they don't need to. So they just eat it to like be like the humans of old, I guess. And indeed, true to their like noble aspirations, they are eating food that could be feeding starving people. So that feels right. But also, so like what they do need to consume is this stuff called, I can't remember what the fuck it's called.
Heart something?
Hearthstone? Is that what it's called?
Something like that.
Yes, Hearthstone.
That they take out of a mine in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Which is
boring.
Some like red powder stuff that they have to consume or else they die. And part of Kinnock's whole plan is to like try and create a substance that would mean that they don't ever have to eat Hearthstone ever again, so they can end their reliance on the mine. And again, this could have been interesting, but it wasn't.
Yeah. All I'm going to say is one thing. This reminds me, Dragon Age Inquisition, Lyrium.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of Lyrium. Because, like, it just... Because in Dragon Age, people, like, get, like, super strength from having this substance called Lyrium, and become kind of dependent on it, and it's quite like a drug for them.
Yeah, and so, isn't there also... Like there's, like, red Lyrium, right? Which is, like, corrupted or...
Yeah.
Like, bad Lyrium. And in this book, right near the end, there's this other Tome noble lady who has been using this other stuff that's called Nightshade or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Which is...
Yeah, I think it is. It kind
which
of
is
kills
like...
them.
Yeah, it's like a
them.
not quite right equivalent to Hearthstone, and the whole thing is that she looks like she's like dying because of it. And that does also feel quite Lyrium-y.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, that feels like that's the red Lyrium equivalent.
I got kind of annoyed when I was like, oh my god. Anything else to say about the plot and the story in general?
It was bad.
It was bad.
That's all I need to say.
That's all they need left to say. Okay, then let's go into intrigue.
I gave it a 3.
I gave it a 2.
It started interesting and then promptly fell off.
I made myself read this at some point. I was just like, I'm going to sit down and finish it because I have been here for 6 days and I cannot do this anymore.
We had a discussion about this because you finished it before I did. And I said, like, I complained. I said it's a slog to read this book. And you were like, oh, you could DNF if you want. I was like, no. I was determined to finish this because, and I don't apply this to all books, but books that I'm reading for this book club, I feel like if I'm going to come here and shit talk it, I need to finish it.
Yeah.
So that I can fairly shit talk it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And that was the only thing that kept me going for the whole, like, second half of this book.
Yeah. Because, like, if I wasn't reading it for the book club, I would not have made it past 200 pages.
Oh, yeah. This shit would have been DNF'd, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the only reason the intrigue is a 3 and not lower is because it's, like, the setup is good.
The setup is good.
Right? Like, the blurb is good. The first little tiny chunk of the book is good. And then it just falls off so hard. So I gave it a 3 because I felt like it wasn't as bad as it could have been, because at least it had something that made me want to read it.
I gave it a 2, it's mainly because I was so bored. I skim read, and I don't skim read that often, but I was just like, I'm gonna jump paragraphs and see if I miss out on anything. I didn't miss out on anything.
No, you wouldn't have.
I looked at pages. I don't know if I had tuned the information that was on some of them pages, but I looked at them.
There wasn't information on those pages, so I wouldn't worry about it.
They were probably walking down a corridor, you know. There were so many corridors. Sorry, that was just like the funniest thing to me in the world.
It seems to happen so much in this book. It's yeah.
I just didn't want to be there at most points. But,
yeah. I didn't care.
No one did. Anyway, okay, let's move on to logic then.
Logic was my highest scorer.
Really? It's my second last? I think I gave it a 3. I
gave it a 6.
Oh, okay.
Because I felt like it was internally consistent, sort of. I felt like there wasn't plot holes, right?
No, there wasn't.
The plot was bad, but there weren't holes in it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what the logic stuff is about. But I did mark it down because it kept saying that Otome were so different from humans.
They are so flawless. And they are puzzle perfect.
did not feel different, and so
Yeah.
it lost logic points for me there because, like,
Yeah.
they should have felt different.
Yeah. 3, I thought mechanics kind of stupid. The pillars thing, I liked that. That was the only thing I liked.
That was an interesting concept that went nowhere and meant nothing.
And literally had no significance to the plot because nothing changed. Because
it was supposed to have significance to the plot, but its only significance to the plot was that Crier's pillars were in fact just normal
ones. Which means she is like everyone else. Oh, I hate her so much.
Oh god. Yeah.
But, boring.
That is the thing, right? Like, it's just they're both of them are so uninteresting and so I don't care what they're feeling or what they're thinking, and I should.
Yeah. If you want to write a book, make us care about your characters.
Make it good.
Make it good. Make them have, like, one thing that they like. Have to give them a little hobby or something.
Just a thing.
Give them, like, they could be obsessed with garlic bread. I don't care.
Because we just read God Killers, right?
Yeah, that was fun. I
Ayla
go back and I
felt
love
it. Compared to this, Ayla felt like an even worse version of Kissing from God Killers.
Oh yeah.
Because she was supposed to be this, like, badass sort of character. She's just not.
She really isn't. She wanted to be badass.
That reminds me of another thing. There is moment for both of them separately have a moment in this book, both Ayla and Crier, where they encounter a locked door and immediately go, well, it's a good thing I know how to pick locks then.
Right? How does Crier
Both of
know
them
how to
separately
do that?
had that. She reads a lot. That's literally the reason that's given in the book, is that she went through a phase when she was younger where she liked learning how things worked. So she read a bunch, and she learned how locks work, and so now she can pick locks.
I read a bunch. I don't know how to pick locks. I physically am unable to. That is dumb. If someone has never
such a bad reason.
If someone has never picked a lock before, they're not going to know how to pick a lock. Even if they have read about it.
It's also a horrendously bad thing. Your characters should feel different from each other as well, right? And if you're going to have one of them be able to pick locks just because, don't have the other one also be able to pick locks just because.
Yeah. Give them differentiating reasons if they both can do it.
Yeah, give them different
them
skills. Different abilities.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Make it like a Metroidvania video game where Crier encounters a locked door, and to make her way through it, she has to go back to some other place and recruit Ayla to get her to open the door.
Exactly.
That would be more interesting rather than just being like, oh yeah, Crier went through a phase where she liked learning how things work, so now she knows how to lockpick.
Oh yeah.
No. Horrendous.
The favourite thing
Terrible.
Was the description that they used to do like the lockpicking was like, I just put this thing in the lock and wiggled it. And that's how I picked the lock. It felt like, you know, Skyrim when you have to move the two lock pieces and that's how you do it. It felt like that. And I'm just like, oh dear God.
Yeah, it was not good. And to me, I think that lockpicking thing was like a microcosm of a lot of the things wrong with this book. Because it was just another example of how these two characters are in many ways indistinguishable. Because they are both bland as all fuck.
Yeah. They are bland, nothing exciting happens. They are boring. They are the same person.
Yeah.
Deep down they are the same person.
I guess that moves us nicely on into enjoyment.
I gave it a 3.
I gave it a 2.
Yes. I think I should have went lower, because I don't know why I gave it a 3. I'm staring at my rating like, no, that's not right. It should be 1.
The one plus, the one thing that I vaguely enjoyed about this book was that very, very early sapphic pining.
Yes.
That was well done. It went nowhere.
Yes.
And it was, you know, not very well handled after that. But that initial point where they keep, like, looking at each other and being like, oh god damn, she's hot.
Yeah. That was great.
But in fancier prose, that was interesting.
In fancier prose, goddamn, she is hot.
She be hot.
She be hot. Oh my
That
god.
fine maiden over yonder.
The
And then
eight.
underneath that, on my notes for enjoyment, again in all caps, is I just didn't care.
Yeah.
That to me is one of the biggest crimes a book can commit. Is like
Making
I
you not
look, I can put up with poor writing style. I can put up with like lacking characters if I also care about the book or what's happening or something. I did not care about a single thing in this book.
Nothing at all.
If every character in this book died, I would not care.
Yeah. If a bomb went off in this book.
If the bad guys in this series won, I wouldn't care.
I would shrug my shoulders.
This is the first book in a series. I think it's only a duology this
Yeah.
time. I think there's just a book too. I don't care if Crier and Ayla get back together because at the end they're separated. I don't care if they get back together and save the world and kill the bad guys. I don't give a fuck.
I really don't
And that is, like, to my mind, just the worst thing that I can come out of a book feeling.
Yeah. If I have not gained any enjoyment or anything from your book, then it's not good. It's not a good thing. Because I wanted to like the book from the synopsis. Kept going, hated it. I was there for way too long. Usually I'm like 3 to 4 days is like how long I usually take on a book that's this length. I took 7.5 days. Purely because I felt like I needed to get through it. I looked at fan art hoping that it would spur me on.
Yeah, I was a little over a week for this one.
I should be looking at fan art because I enjoyed the book, not because I need something to help me.
That's the other thing as well. I could not picture any of the characters in this book in my head.
Neither could I.
At no point did I, imagine what a character might look like in my head.
No. You know what I did, though? When I was looking at the fan art, all I could think of was, little Warforged, the official, Warforged art. It's just, a little guy, little ball of this tiny little thing.
That would
then
be
just,
cute.
a human. That would have been really cute. I made... That would have been fun.
I have a soft spot for automatons in fantasy, right? Magical automatons. That is one of my favourite things to encounter in fantasy. I fucking love that shit. I hated these ones because they were just people.
They were just people. They had
boring
no
as fuck
personalities. Nothing happened. They have no personality at all. There was even a human uprising happening, and that didn't go anywhere. They were just in the east or something. There is a battle going on, and they lost. Oh no!
And I didn't
care.
root for them, right? As well, in a book like this, where you've got a group in society that are marginalized and rebelling and all that, you should probably want your reader to support them, right?
Yeah.
I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care if the rebellion succeeds because you've given me zero emotional stake in anything that happens in this book.
We don't care if they win or die, or I actually hope they die because then it's over.
It would make the book much more interesting if I knew that the bad guys were going to win. I'd prefer that.
Oh, it'd be so much better. But yeah.
I think this book to me is the epitome of the old adage, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
I'm just disappointed. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Boring book. I think there's much better books.
There are much better books.
Do you have any recommendations for something we should read instead of this?
Yes, I do. If you've listened to the whole 50 odd minutes of this podcast so far and haven't read the book, good, don't
do it.
Instead, I wrecked it last time, but I'm doing it again. Gear Breakers by Zoe Hannah Makuta. Incredible, right? It is about two girls, and one's part of the regime and the other one's part of a rebellion, and they fall in love, and they like try and take down the regime together. It's so much better than this. It's incredible. I loved Gearbreakers. It was very nearly my book of the year last year. Fantastic book. Iron Widow by Jiran J. Zhao.
Yes, that was one of mine as well.
Book. If you want the fantasy, the vengeance girl thing, incredible. Iron Widow, fantastic. It's like Chinese inspired mechas
as well.
Fighting giant monsters. It's
love triangle that's actually a triangle and they all get together.
Yeah, there's a throuple.
And the second book's coming out soon, which I'm so happy about.
Yes.
So excited.
She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. Another one I would recommend. Again, like Chinese inspired. It's this girl who's been told that she'll never amount to anything, and then her brother and her dad both starve to death, and she survives, and so she takes on her brother's identity, goes to become a monk, and then eventually ends up involved in like a civil war as like
so
a leader of armies.
So good.
Another great book, but fair warning. She Who Became
one
the Sun.
scene.
At the start of chapter, I think it's like 2021, there is a surprise fisting scene. Just so you know.
I got so scared.
It was a bit of a jump scare. I knew it was coming because I'd seen people talking about it on social media, but I didn't know where in the book it happened.
Yeah.
So I was constantly like lying in wait. I was like mentally trying to prepare myself for surprise fisting.
See, I didn't know it was coming, and I got I got so scared.
Gideon the Ninth.
Yes!
Of course, by Tamsin Muir. We love
Queen.
Tamsin Muir. She's incredible. Gideon the Ninth, Harrow the Ninth, Nona the Ninth, all fantastic. Obviously, though, start with Gideon. Obviously. Because it's the start of the series.
My personal
again,
favourite.
like I said earlier, this could feel like really shit Griddlehark fanfiction.
Yeah.
Gideon the Ninth is like fantastic book. Top fucking
tier. Top tier sci-fi sapphic. It's so good.
Incredible. Yes. It's necromancers in space. Fantastic. Literally nothing bad about it.
Literally. There's no downside.
And I'm currently reading this one, so I might end up having a different opinion about it by the time I finish the book. But if you want that like fantasy fix, Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb. It's a fairly recent release. It's about the last male dragon, and he gets like sucked into the human world and ends up bonded, like magically bonded to this non-binary thief. And now they're like doing heists and shit together, and the dragon is trying to get the thief to like trust him so that he can manipulate their bond and break the veil between the human world and the dragon world and bring all the dragons back. And there is an incredibly sexy pickpocketing scene.
Oh, you were telling me about this before the recording. I'm just so excited. It's on my TBR. My library hold just came in for it, so I'm so excited. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, if you want that like good old fantasy vibe, Dragonfall, definitely recommend that one. Eve, what about you? You got any sexy recs? They don't have to be sexy.
They're always sexy when it's me as an irreverent person. You already said a couple of mine. You said Gideon the Ninth, Iron Widow, that kind of vibe.
Yep.
So I'll go with the ones that you haven't said. I put down, if you want like a cute fantasy, you might. There's a TV show on Netflix. That's fine. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Thieves. 4 different thieves. There's a male romance in it. There is a convict, a sharpshooter, a runaway, a spy. Magical powers that are really, really cool, based on Russia, I believe.
Yeah, it's like Eastern Europe sort of vibe, isn't it?
Yeah. I really liked the book. I thought it was fun. You can read there's 3 books before it I can't remember the name of. The Grishaverse, anyway.
Shadow and Bone.
First 3, Shadow and Bone. Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and the Ruin and Rising or something. They're fine. I think go straight to Six of Crows. The world building is kind of simple, so you can kind of jump in at that point, I think. So that's personally my favourite out of the whole Grishaverse.
Yeah, and fair warning, if you do watch the Netflix adaptation, it is like a combination of the two trilogies.
Of the two. So, like,
into one show. So
these books have nothing to do with what the TV show Six of Crows is.
The TV show's called Shadow and Bone, rather, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so read the Six of Crows books, but you don't need to bother with the Shadow and Bone ones, because from what I've heard, they're not as good.
They're really not as good. They're fine. She greatly improves with Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. They're fantastic, and there might be a third one. It's listed online as going to be a third one, but she's not gotten around to writing it yet. But it is a duology. You can read them as a duology.
I guess she's
been
really busy
good.
doing those other books, hasn't she?
Yes, Ninth House. I actually really liked the Ninth House sequel, Hellbent, which is really, really fun. I hated Ninth House. I loved Hellbent.
I was going to say, you didn't like the first book, though, did you?
I gave the first book 2 stars. I gave the second book 5 stars.
Incredible.
Because, like, I had no reason to pick it up, and then I did, and I loved it, and I don't know how that happened.
Fair enough.
It was just so much better. But anyway, I'll move on to other recommendations. I just finished A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers.
Yes!
Fantastic! It was so good. The second book is at my work. I'm going to pick up on Wednesday. I'm going to eat it. I'm going to physically eat it. It was so scrumptious. It is Otome and humans, and the Otome leave and go to the forest, away from the humans, and it's about a human non-binary person who goes into the woods wanting to get away from their old life. They are a tea salesperson.
Yeah, they're a tea monk.
And tea monk, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And they meet an Otome, and they bond, and they talk about the human experience, and it's so beautiful.
It's so sweet. It's so gentle. It's so nice. If you ever want, and it's a novella, so it's like 150 pages.
Yeah.
And if you want just like a short, positive, uplifting, just like gentle, like hug for your soul in a book.
It's perfect.
It is perfect.
Read it with a cup of tea. You'll need it.
Yeah, it feels appropriate.
It's like an hour and a half of reading. It's
perfect. It will not take you long.
Yeah.
And also, just read Becky Chambers' other books as well, but those are sci-fi, so they're not quite so, like, connected.
They're still cozy, though. They've still got a cozy.
This is true.
Everything she writes is still kind of cozy. But yeah, that's my recommendations.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Thank God we are done with this book.
Thank fuck.
Yeah.
It was horrible. But
yeah. Oh, and just a reminder that we have another podcast now on the same feed. It'll show up like sort of alternating 2 weeks. I guess fortnights is the word for that. Alternating fortnights-ish, give or take, with this called Talking in the Tavern, where we just randomly chat about whatever book stuff we feel like chatting about.
Books, literature, and more. It's going to be fun times.
It's just chaos.
Yeah.
Even less structure than this.
And we try.
And even more tangents than
Hell
this.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us in the tavern. Where can we find you outside the podcast, Phoenix?
Well, you can find my personal Twitter if you want me just talking random shit, at Beans and Fungi. Or I have a book review blog called The Firebird's Bookshelf. It's been a bit hiatus-y at the moment because I've been busy with other stuff, but I will get back to it. So you can find that on the website at thefirebirdsbookshelf.com, or on Twitter at Firebirdsbooks, or Instagram at The Firebirds Bookshelf. And what about you, Eve? Where can they find you?
Well, on the internet, you can find me on TikTok at phantom.frog. And you can also find me on Instagram at erhandyside. And I'm finally getting around to Twitter. So you can also find me.
He's finally doing the Twitter thing.
I'm finally doing the Twitter thing. So I'm on Twitter as erhandyside as well. Woo!
And also make sure you follow the podcast on Instagram at Hearth and Tome Pod, and on Twitter at Hearth and Tome. If you want to get, updates about when episodes go live and little bits and pieces of other content-y stuff, we'll have some stuff going up on Instagram. Well, I'll probably post it to Twitter as well soon. I say soon, it will be long in the past by the time this episode goes out. So yeah, keep an eye on the social medias to be up to date. Oh, which reminds us, we never talked about what our next book is.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we forgot to say. Oh my gosh,
we're so good at these. Our book for July is Eve.
Cursed Cocktails by someone.
Yeah, by S.L. Rowland.
That's it. Yes.
I'm not sure. Which is cozy fantasy, but in a cocktail bar.
Yes, I'm so excited.
And it's MLM this time.
Yeah.
Unlike the Sapphic books that we have been reading so far. So yeah, join us in July for that.
Thank you so much, travellers, from here at Hearth and Tome. Thank you for listening to our third episode. Third episode? Yes, third episode.
Yeah, third episode already. Time flies.
So, check back for some new episodes in the future of our book club. Hope to see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Music used within this episode was Midnight Tale by Kevin MacLeod through Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license.